Yo, what is going on, guys? SMH Super Mario Hoops back with some more hoops, and today we are hopping right back into the top 50 list in NBA history. Now, who do we have today? I mean, as you'll see in the title and the thumbnail, it's of course Elgin Baylor. And where do I have Elgin Baylor on my all-time list? I got him ranked at number 22 as of today. But let's hold up for a second there before we hop into Elgin Baylor. Gonna need you guys to hit the like button. Gonna need you guys to subscribe. Gotta hit that notification bell so you'll see the rest of the videos I'll be posting. And then also feel free to comment your thoughts on Elgin Baylor, your thoughts on my thoughts of Elgin Baylor, or just your thoughts on my whole top 50 list up to this point. But without further ado, let's get into Elgin Baylor. Now, over the course of his career, he made the All-Star team 11 different times, every year from 1959 until 1965, and then also every season from 1967 until 1970. He also was All-NBA first team all 10 times that he was on All-NBA, which was from 1959 until 1965, and then 1967 until 1969. And in terms of accolades, I mean, that's kind of it for the main part. I mean, yes, he was Rookie of the Year as well, but I don't really consider that on here unless their rookie season was the highlight of their career. And I mean, that's kind of guys like Walt Bellamy or Michael Carter-Williams, and neither of them are going to be on this list. I'm just going to break it to you right now. You also got to realize, though, that all the defensive awards that exist today, like Defensive Player of the Year, All Defensive, along with something like Third Team All-NBA, did not exist back then. So naturally, players from the past won't have quite as many total accomplishments, but this still doesn't mean that they were any less good. But hopping into his MVP shares, he received votes in 9 different seasons and was also a top 5 finisher 7 different times. In fact, he was even the runner-up in 1962, 1963 behind Bill Russell, and there's a great case to be made that he actually should have won this MVP. But let's move into some of his all-time stat rankings. I mean, 27.4 points per game is 3rd in NBA history, only behind Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain. A 13.5 rebound per game average is 10th all-time, and actually it's the highest among small forwards in NBA history. The next highest small forward on that list is Larry Bird with exactly 10 per game, and that average ranks about 51st all-time. A 22.7 PER is good for 28th all-time. 104.2 win shares is good for 77th in NBA history, and also 63.6 offensive win shares is good for 76th in NBA history. And while his defensive win shares aren't on here, that's of course an accumulative stat. I mean, a prime Elgin Baylor was top 20 in this category for 6 seasons, 3 of which he was top 10 and 2 where he was in top 5. Another underrated stat about Elgin Baylor is that he has 26 triple doubles, and that ranks 19th in NBA history, which is pretty amazing considering the fact that pretty much nobody ever discusses him as a great triple-double player, but he's among the top 20 and some of the best ever in this category. But now let's talk about Elgin Baylor and his playoff career. To start off, he is the only player in NBA playoff history to be ranked top 15 all-time in both points per game and rebounds per game. But just in terms of the playoffs as a whole for Elgin Baylor, he was nothing short of remarkable. I mean, he led the NBA in points per game for 4 consecutive years from 1959 to 1963. And this includes the years where like Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 points per game and 25 rebounds a game, another where he averaged over 45 points per game, the year where Oscar Robertson had a 30-point triple-double, and so on. But in a 4-year stretch over those years, Elgin led the playoffs in scoring all those seasons, while averaging over 10 rebounds per game in his first 10 playoff runs as well. He also got slightly more efficient in the postseason too. Baylor averaged 20 points per game in 19 of 25 playoff series, including 18 of his first 19 of his career. The only one where he didn't, he actually got hurt in the first round in 1965, which required him to have knee surgery, and many believe that he would never come back the same. But he still had a lot of good years after this as well. He also managed to average over 30 points per game in 10 of his 25 playoff series for his career. I mean, that's like 40% of his playoff series, and above 10 rebounds per game in 18 of the 20 playoff series where rebounds were actually tallied. Now, technically there was 21, but again, I didn't include the 1965 series that we just discussed because Baylor only played 5 minutes of one game in that whole series. Now, one thing that comes to mind about Elgin Baylor is the fact that he made the NBA Finals a lot in his career. However, something else that often comes to mind is the fact that he lost a lot of finals in his career with an 0-7 record. But in those 7 seasons, would you believe me if I said that Elgin Baylor was the best player on his team for 5 of them? Because when people think about the Lakers in the 1960s, the first thought is naturally Jerry West. I mean, and why wouldn't it be? Because he is the logo after all. But outside of his 1965-1966 season, Jerry West only finished higher than Elgin Baylor one time in 6 years that they made it to the finals together. That being in 1970, which again, Baylor still had knee problems and eventually ruptured his Achilles in the month that followed. Ultimately, on my list, Jerry West is going to be ranked higher, but I just want to make it known that these guys were like a 1A, 1B level duo. I mean, nobody carried the other. They had two fantastic players, and early on, not quite the depth of Boston, but they had a good enough one to compete, especially in the later years. In fact, of the 6 times that Baylor faced Boston in the finals, he was swept once, he lost in 6 twice, and lost in 7 3 times. So if you flip the odds on each series here, both Elgin Baylor and Jerry West are 6-time champions, while guys like Bill Russell have 5 and Sam Jones has 4, and so on. Now, I said West would have 6 as well because he wasn't on the Lakers in 1959, so it would still be equal with Elgin Baylor. And that's another remarkable feat for Elgin Baylor, considering that year he was 3rd in MVP voting and led his team to the NBA Finals prior to Jerry West's arrival as a rookie. After the next 2 playoffs of averaging 36.1 points per game, 12.9 rebounds per game, 46% from the field, and 82% from the free throw line, the Lakers made the NBA Finals again in 1962, and they were even up 3-2 in this series before dropping Game 6 and 7. Now, Game 7 also went into overtime, and Boston only won the championship by 3 points. Baylor had a game-high 41 points, 22 rebounds, and 4 assists, and for the series averaged 40.6 points per game, 17.9 rebounds a game, 3.7 assists on 43% from the field and 83% from the free throw line. This is actually the 3rd highest point per game average in an NBA Finals series, behind Jordan in 93 and Rick Barry in 1967. Now, he didn't have MJ's efficiency, but he did double both his and Barry's rebound average while being more efficient than Barry as well. So it's safe to say that if the Lakers pulled this off, this would have been one of the greatest moments in NBA history. In the 1963 NBA Finals, Baylor was arguably even better, averaging about 34 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists on 47% from the field and 84% from the free throw line, but of course lost again in 6 to the Celtics. But for these 2 years, had the Finals MVP existed and the Lakers won, he would have been that guy. I mean, even the way that it was invented the first year, where it didn't matter if you won or not, he still could have won it. It just goes to show that he had himself a very good case to even be maybe around the best player in the NBA. People often talk about Wilt or Bill or Oscar or even Jerry West, but they never really bring up Elgin Baylor. And it's not like he only played great in the finals. I mean, he averaged over 30 points per game and 15 rebounds a game every series up to the 1968 finals in that playoff run, and that's following a knee surgery. But once the Achilles injury in 1970 came, it was kind of a wrap for his career. I mean, he played a total of 11 games in 2 seasons and ultimately had to retire prematurely in the 1971-1972 NBA season. And ironically enough, that was the year the Lakers finally won their championship. Now, of course, they did give him a ring, but in the official record books, it does not say that Elgin Baylor has a championship, which is kind of a shame after everything he did for the Lakers. I mean, after all, he's probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest player to never officially win a championship. So when it comes to Elgin Baylor, I would say that he is underrated. Now, the way I described him, it probably makes it sound like he should be ranked even better, and that's fair to say. Now, why do I have him so low then? Well, first of all is health. I mean, he had a decent stretch of years where he just wasn't the regular Elgin Baylor we know. Also, the fact that he doesn't have a title, and I know the Celtics were OP, but that's not a total excuse for Baylor. I mean, he had West, he got Wilt later in some runs, he had Gil Goodrich as well, while the Celtics were in the 1960s, especially in the later times, I mean, they started to decline, and they became even more beatable. Considering the fact already that of all the Game 7s they lost to Boston in the finals, each game was within 3 points, and 2 of them were within 2. So that's like doing 1 or 2 more things in the right way, and then you win the game and you win the championship. And then also defensively. I mean, he was all right. I wouldn't say that he was the wing defender of that time in comparison to like Gus Johnson or Walt Frazier or John Havlicek and so on. I mean, that's another reason why West will end up above him, because he simply was a better defender than Elgin Baylor. But he's still underrated because people use his no ring and 0-7 finals argument to push him outside the top 30, and that should be a given. Really, I might even be underrating him, so he definitely deserves more credit. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about Elgin Baylor. He's probably was before a lot of your guys' time, so of course you weren't able to watch film live on him, but if you've done any research on Elgin Baylor, let me know what you think. But guys, I think that's going to do it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed again, and I'm out. Peace.